you might be a newer investor and you might not know the great 15, 20 year track records that some of these companies have. And, sometimes that's all it's all about is there's a lot of people who have discovered these companies already, and they already know that they're great businesses. And so it's just up to you to become educated on them. And I like the kind of books that give these.
Love this podcast because it crushes your dreams of getting rich quick.
They actually got me into reading stats for anything.
You're tuned in to the Investing for Beginners podcast.
Led by
Andrew Sather and Dave Ahern.
Step-by-step premium investing guidance for beginners.
Your path to financial freedom starts now.
All right, folks. Welcome to Investing for Beginners podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to find investment ideas in the stock market in 2026. So this will be a great lesson in how to source investment ideas. So with that, let's talk about how you find stock ideas. What are your thoughts?
Well, you just said a word that pops in my mind, and it's a great one, and a resource that gets even better and better over time. But that is podcasts. Podcasts have been such a great way to get ideas and also get deeper than surface level insights on companies. And you're starting to see more and more of this stuff. I think it is important to understand the founding story of a business if the founder, CEO is still there. It can be important to understand the background, even if maybe the founder isn't there, but just to give you a download of how an industry works. I've used this example before, but I listened to Shoe Dog, and that taught me more about Shoe Dog's the memoir with Phil Knight, who founded Nike. That taught me more about retail and the shoe business, obviously, and things like working capital and inventory in a way that's way more digestible than trying to read it from a textbook. So podcasts and founding stories and just content about businesses can be such a great way to find ideas, to maybe give you insight into some of those outliers where you might look at the stock and be like, oh, I would never buy that. But if you start to learn the background and you start to understand the actual story behind it, then maybe it opens up your horizons a little bit. And so I think podcasting can be a great way to do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the great thing about podcasts is the format naturally leads to longer, in-depth conversations about the company, so that you can explore different aspects of the business a lot more. You can get a better sense of the struggles maybe that of the company went through to get to where they are. A lot of times when we come into the investing world, we may be way later in the Nike story, and so we don't understand how hard it was for Phil Knight to go from idea to selling their shoes to Michael Jordan and the Air Jordan story. There was a lot that happened in between those 2 points, and so podcasts can certainly give you a lot more flavor. One of the things that I loved about the Acquired podcast is the in-depth and the storytelling that they go into all these different companies. And sometimes they're companies I'm not interested in any way, shape, or form, but because they're telling these stories, you can get a better sense of the companies. And it also gives you ideas, maybe not the particular company itself, but when they talk about tangential businesses or competitors to that business, it can give you insights into that industry as well. So podcasts are, a fantastic source of other, to generate investment ideas.
Yeah. What else?
Well, I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention social media. It can be a challenging place to swim, for sure. There's a lot of pitfalls, a lot of tidal pools. There's a lot of waves that can wash you over. So you have to be careful of the diet that you consume on social media. But as somebody who's been a user of the X or Twitter for a little while now, you can filter out a fair amount of stuff you don't want to see, which can help correct your information diet. And so if there are people on there that are pitching stocks or constantly pumping and dumping kind of things, you can mute that kind of stuff. If you don't want to hear about oil, or if you don't want to hear about crypto or any of those kinds of things, you can mute all those things. And so it can help focus your stream much more. I will admit I haven't done that on some of the other platforms, but I don't generally use those for investment ideas. But when you have a good collection of 50 to 100 people or more that you respect and think are good analysts, you can get a lot of potentially really good investment ideas from a place like social media, depending on how you try to, source your information. So that is something that I have used over the years, and I've gotten a few ideas from there along the way. So it's not something I'm going to go and find an idea every single day, but it certainly is helpful to hear people talk about companies maybe you're interested in, and to see what their take is to help form an opinion on whether it's something you want to look into deeper or not.
What are some accounts that would be good to start to follow to get ideas?
Oh gosh. I think some great ones would be our friends Brett and Ryan at Chit Chat Stocks. They both have individual accounts, but if you follow the Chit Chat Stocks account, they do a really good job of doing very in-depth analysis. Sometimes they follow very small companies, sometimes they follow larger companies, but they have a pretty eclectic mix. And so that could be a great source of really good information. I also follow John Rotanti, who we've had on the show several times. He's a great source of information, especially for investment ideas. He has his own portfolio that he manages now. And sometimes he will talk about particular companies that are in that portfolio. And so he's a smart cookie. So he's a great resource. There's another gentleman that I follow. His name is Abdullah, and his handle is Mostly Borrowed Ideas. He's mostly a tech investor, but he's very smart. He's a great analyst, and he follows a lot of the big tech companies as well as some of the smaller ones. And so he can be a great resource for investment ideas. But if you're curious at all about all the people I follow, I don't remember all of them. It's like 190 or 200 people. If you just go to at IFB_podcast and look and see who I'm following, you can click on that and it'll give you a list of all the people that I follow. And I only follow people that I think are good analysts or will bring some value to me or anybody that follows us. So that's if you want to go deeper on that, that's what I would recommend.
That's awesome. Yeah. The conversation we have with John Rotanti, if you're looking for infrastructure ideas, which seems to be something people are more and more gravitating towards with all the AI stuff going on, Google Investing for Beginners podcast, John Rotanti, and click on the latest episode we did with him. He shares some infrastructure ideas, and you can get a sense, because it's pretty obvious that infrastructure needs to be built, has been built, is continuing to be built. So if you talk about like relevant ideas, timely ideas for 2026, I think that's a great place to start.
Yep, absolutely. Totally agree. Do you have any other like media platforms that you think could be potential idea generation places that you might look at?
I like YouTube. I don't know. Like, I feel like some people are into the whole YouTube thing and some people just aren't. But I do like YouTube. I think people on there, for me personally, I like the ones that kind of go deeper into a business, not so much like give me a rapid fire stuff. Like, I want kind of something in depth, and I want something that gives me an insight that I haven't thought of. It's one thing to get ideas or get lists of tickers, but in my opinion, if you want like really good ideas, you need to have people who are giving you ideas for companies that kind of shift your thinking on the company a way you've never thought of it before. Because really, what are we doing when we're buying stocks? We're trying to. It's a game where everybody's trying to find that special company, that special stock that is under the radar, that's not being fairly priced. That's really the game we're all playing. And so in order to achieve that, you need to have these ideas that are beneath the surface different. There's something special there. And so I like when different YouTubers go deeper into stocks. One that pops to mind is Company Man. it's entertaining. Like even my 13-year-old daughter likes to watch it too, because he'll pit like, Quiznos versus Subway or something, and why the Quiznos fail and things like that. So it's like a lot of relevant stuff, but it can give you these stories or these just insights, fresh ways to look at names and companies we're all familiar with, that all it takes is just that one idea, that one little tick of imagination to say, oh, maybe the market's missing something here. And that can lead to some fantastic ideas.
That that's a great one. I would freely admit I'm not a YouTube sicko like you are, but I have explored a little bit and seen some of what you're talking about. And to your point, it's really good. I think a lot of times we always look for confirmation bias or confirming the thoughts that we have about a particular company, positive or negative. And sometimes it could be really, really helpful to look on the other side of the trade, if you will, to look at contrarian viewpoints. Sometimes you may 100% disagree with them, and that's okay. But I think trying to be open to the idea that there may be something about the business that you may not understand, or maybe you were thinking differently about it, and this person can unlock an insight into a particular company, can be very, very, very helpful. It kind of goes to the idea that Charlie Munger preached all those years ago, invert, always invert. That's kind of the same idea as trying to look for opposite ends of the trade and see if you can find something that maybe they can reveal to you that maybe you hadn't thought before, because it happens all the time. We may think we know everything about a company, and you come across some tidbit or the way somebody phrases something or puts a piece of information that you hadn't considered before, and it can kind of open up a whole new arena for you, not only for that company, but maybe a sector or an industry or a particular, how to look at that particular investment. So it can be very, very revealing. So I'd encourage you to not just look for, hey, everybody, I love this company, I'm going to look for people that all love this company. While that can be helpful too, also looking on the other side can be very helpful as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So I think another place that I like to look is reading. I know it's boring. And
that's not 2026. Come on now. Who's doing that anymore? Come on now.
Right, exactly. Sometimes the timeless classics stay relevant. So reading blog posts, reading Twitter, reading books, reading 10Ks, those kinds of reading earnings calls, listening to what other owners of businesses that you're interested in are saying about their competitors. A lot of times it's it will be generic or very surface level, but every once in a while you're going to get a nugget. I think it's Matthew Prince. I'm going to blank whether he's Cloudflare or CrowdStrike, but one of those two. He is very opinionated, shall we say, and he will cut into competitors. And sometimes if you read well enough, sometimes you can find some nuggets in what he's saying, and you can go and investigate the other companies and discover that what he is saying is true. And so it can give you a better insight into, okay, whether this company is really as good as maybe you thought it was based on what a competitor is saying about the business. You're not going to find that a lot. So don't think that that's going to be, everywhere you look, but occasionally you will find that. But just reading and listening to other earnings calls, reading other reports can be very, very helpful to find investment ideas, especially when other competitors are talking about those companies. It could be very revealing.
So how does one find good blogs to read?
One finds good blogs by following the same people I follow. No, just joking.
Nuggets newsletter.
Yeah, the Nuggets newsletter. Thank you. That's a really good way. One of the things that I do every Tuesday is I send out a free newsletter at if you subscribe to our newsletter at einvestingforbeginners.com, subscribe. We have a newsletter called The Nuggets that we send out every Tuesday. And included in that are at least 6 links of different things that I've come across in my investigations during the week prior that I thought would be interesting and educational and helpful to our readers. And so that could be a really good way to discover other people like Thomas Chua, who I'm a big fan of his writing. People like Brad Freeman from the Stock Market Nerd, big fan of his writing. So people like that I will feature occasionally in there when they have something interesting to say that is at least freemium enough that you can read the vast majority of it. And you can find a lot of great investment ideas as well as other coherent thoughts from smart people out there in the investing world.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. I'll tag on to what you said because I can picture in my head times where I've read things and gotten ideas. There's one, and I'm going to blank on the specific title, but I think it was called Lessons from the Titans. And they talked about companies like Heiko. I can't remember if they talked about Fastenal. I think Facebook was in there. But these stocks where you might be a newer investor and you might not know the great 15, 20 year track records that some of these companies have. And, sometimes that's all it's all about is there's a lot of people who have discovered these companies already and they already know that they're great businesses. And so it's just up to you to become educated on them. And I like the kind of books that give these, I don't know what the genre would be considered, but kind of give you these different business stories all compiled in a book. And those can be fabulous. Back in the day, there was a book called Outsiders by William Thorndike. And at that time, that would have been a great time to buy Berkshire. I think was Berkshire. No, I don't think Berkshire was an outsider. But there were stocks in there that would have been good ideas that much ink was spilled because these CEOs had done such a great job and can continue to do such a great job. So yeah, don't underestimate the library, an Audible subscription, Kindle Unlimited, whatever it needs to be to get you reading can be a great way to find good ideas.
Yeah, for sure. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about how you can find investment ideas in your everyday life. I think as we observe our lives, you see things, you interact with businesses on a daily basis. We are doing our recording on Zoom right now. I'm not saying you should go out and buy Zoom, but if you think about the things that you use on a daily basis, that could be a really great place to try to find investment ideas. I've read before in the past where people talk about going into their cabinet in their bathroom and just looking at all the products that are on the shelves, going into their pantry or their cupboards in their kitchen, going to a grocery store and just walking the aisles and looking at all the different things that are on the aisles, going to Target and looking at all the things that are in Target or Walmart, and looking at the shoes or the jeans or the electronic brands that they're selling in the store. Those can be a source of investment ideas. And it doesn't always have to just be that you're on your phone or you're reading that you can find great investment ideas. You can find them every day if you just kind of keep your eyes open and look around you. The cars that you see when you're driving to work, maybe the computer that you use at work, maybe the program or the software that you use at work. All those different things could be potentially investment ideas. The company that you work for, if it's a publicly traded company, it could potentially be a great investment. So those are a really, really good source of investment ideas. And I think a lot of people we generally don't pay attention that closely to what we observe in our daily life because we're too busy going about our daily life. But I think that is something that could be an unfound or an untapped reservoir of potential investment ideas.
Now you're making me sad because you are reminding me of I was made familiar of Build-A-Bear because my nephew and niece like to go there, and then my daughter liked to go there for a while. And every time I would go, that place was like line out the door, wrapped around the store, like ton of people. And I remember looking at the stock and I was just too picky at the time. I was like, nah. And I don't know if you've looked at Build-A-Bear lately, but it's been literally one of the best stocks in the last 5 years. It's gone from something I know, it really makes me upset. And like that one just slipped completely from my fingers, but it has gone. Yeah, I got to look at the stock price because I feel like I won't give it its due unless we actually look. So I'm just gonna, yeah, it's at $63 a share now. Back in 2021, I was looking at it. Was it 2021? Maybe I was looking a little bit after, but you could have gotten it in 2020 for $2. And how low did it go? $2.08 was the low. By 2021, it was still trading under $5. And yeah, that's a $63 stock now. So Build-A-Bear, a place in the malls where you feel like malls are dead, but there's this one little shop that's always buzzing because there are all these kids who want their Build-A-Bears. And yeah, that would have been a great idea. Dang it.
Yes. Yes. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't help the mental state to look back at the X's and see how they've done since we passed on them. Right.
Well, maybe a learning lesson.
Yeah.
I remember the PE was like an 8.
Oh, so it was really low too.
It was really low. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was just like too picky. I was like, yeah, I don't like the way management did this and that.
Mm.
I was like, how long are people going to buy bears,
Right.
But
yeah,
I missed a 10 bagger. I literally missed a 10 bagger
right.
in
Yeah.
less than 3 years.
Right. But to your point, it's an idea that you didn't even begin to look at until your daughter and you noticed it at the mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sometimes we walk by stores when we're at the mall and we see that they're packed and we just, wow, that's really busy. And we don't think, hey, well, maybe that could be a potential investment idea. Not that I'm recommending people go out and buy Lululemon, but I do remember a few years ago that going to the Mall of America with my daughter and family and seeing people literally waiting in line to just go in the store, not to check out, but just to go in the store. And I thought, holy moly, but it didn't enter my brain to go, hey, I should go look and see if this is a potential investment,
Right.
So yeah, to your point, the signs are everywhere. We just have to try to make sure we pay attention to them when we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Any other investment sources that you can think of?
I feel like the good old stock screener will never die. I think that will always be something you can stick. You can put that one in your pocket and always go back to it. Stock screener, you're filtering out companies because there's so many stocks that are available out there. You filter the companies, you get a much smaller list, and then that gives you a good list to work on and to look at these different ideas. And what's great is the list changes. I mean, it doesn't change overnight. I remember back when I used to run screens a lot more frequently. Maybe you come back in like 2-3 months and then you'll find a lot of newer names that have dipped down because these stocks, they go in and out of favor quite often. And it's rare for a stock to be that kind of one of one kind of special company where it never goes out of favor. That's more the exception than the norm. And so that's why using screeners can be a great way to find companies that are temporarily out of favor. Would have found me Build-A-Bear, would have found lots of other great companies, and can be a great way to buy stocks on sale.
Or do you have a favorite platform you prefer to use or suggest people check out?
In 2026, I would say check out fiscal.ai because they have a screener, but like you get so much more than just the screener. You get like almost everything you could ever want in that one place. I still use Finviz because I'm a creature of habit and I don't like learning new things. I'm that guy who's like yelling at uh, the kids who are on my lawn, which are my kids.
Right. I truthfully, I use both. And sometimes if I really need to be quick, I will use Finviz just because like you said, I've used it for so long. I literally used to screen for stocks every Monday for years. And to your point, most of the time they didn't move much. So it was kind of an exercise of utility, but on the one chance that maybe something would pop up, I would do it, pretty consistently. So there's that, but yeah, that's a really, really good place to source ideas because to your point, there's 8,000 publicly traded equities globally, I believe, or somewhere in that range. And so trying to filter that down a little bit, unless you just want to start at the A's and work all the way through, good luck.
More power to you if you can do that.
You're right. Yeah. If you can do that, more power to you.
That's like trying to shovel out water from a boat with a hole at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Trying to, I always like to equate it to shoveling sand uphill.
There you go. Yeah.
It just feels like it just coming back down the hill.
You must have been a sandcastle builder back in the day.
I was. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. I wasn't very good. I will freely admit that my sandcastles were poor at best, but I did enjoy the challenge of trying to build them and trying to get the ocean to not take them down. I was never successful. Yeah. The ocean won every single time, but it didn't mean I was not going to keep trying.
Well, I mean, you're more sophisticated than I am because I just start digging and I just keep digging. So that's my design work. I'll dig as deep as I can.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can find gold doing that way.
How else can we find gold in the stock market? What are other ways to find ideas? I'm sure there's more.
Yeah, I think one of the ways that I think I like to still utilize is looking at other investors' portfolios. So I'm thinking of the super investors. That's probably the most common way to do that, is to look at what they're investing in, a Joel Greenblatt or what Warren Buffett used to have in his portfolio, or guys like Terry Smith or, Manish Prabhai and so on and so on. There's a million of them. I do know that fiscal.ai has a tab where you can go to the investors tab and they will show the different hedge fund people what they're investing in. And so there's a gentleman named Dev who runs the Valley Forge hedge fund, I believe it is. And he's one of these very long-term holding guys. And I see a lot of people on X or Twitter talking about his holdings. And so there's a lot of great investment ideas you can plumb from other people. The only caveat to that is that when they are reporting what they own, it's generally 90 days at the least when they bought the company. So there could be a chance, somebody like a Michael Burry, for example, I'll give you just a heads up. Michael Burry is a very active investor. He buys and sells things very quickly. And so if you're trying to follow his portfolio by trying to follow his portfolio, you may be getting into things when he's already gotten out of them. So it is something to be aware of. The gentleman I was speaking with, the Valley Forge, he's a very long-term holder. I don't think he's bought or sold anything in quite some time. So you'd be air quote safer with that, but just a caveat, it's 90 days dated from when you're looking at, well, hey, they own Moody's. Okay, great. But when did they buy it? How much did they buy it for? And do they still own it? So it is things to keep in mind. Always do your own due diligence, but it can be a great place to mine for some potential gold.
Yeah, that's good. And along those lines, if you find investor updates that they do, or they'll kind of expound on how a position in Netflix is how they're thinking about how the business is changing there. That can be a great way to also get like an insight you might have never thought of.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. One of the things I love about Terry Smith, I don't follow his portfolio per se, but he is a very smart guy, and he does annual reviews of his portfolio, and so he'll talk about the companies that are in his portfolio. He'll even talk about why he sold particular companies. Is one of the maybe not downsides, but one of the harder parts about Buffett is he just didn't talk about his decisions. Um, and so you really didn't always know why he bought or sold a particular position. But Terry Smith is very open about, I didn't like this, or I didn't like this, or management did this, or I was wrong about this kind of thing. And that can be very helpful as well. Not only maybe necessarily for that particular idea, but it's foundations you can take and apply to other companies when you're thinking about, okay, well, Terry Smith brought this point, or this company doing this as well. So, those kinds of presentations can be very, very helpful as well.
What do you think about the quarter app? Do you think that can be a way to find ideas?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just because as you're listening to, as I'm not sure how you use yours, but like I have this ginormous follow list on there. And every time somebody tells me about a company, I throw it in the Quarter app, because that's how I will start to maybe try to investigate different companies. And because you can use it when you're walking, you can use it when you're at the gym, you can use it when you're in a house doing your chores. It could be a great way to keep up on the companies that you're trying to follow. And if you have a watch list, it's a great way to keep up with your watch list, because that's also a great source of ideas is the whole watch list idea. And using something like Quarter can help you stay up on a company like, I'll give you Intuit. It's not a company I own. It's on my watch list. I haven't done any air quote work on it per se, but I do try to listen to earnings calls when they are released, so that I can try to learn about the company and stay up with it. And at some point when I do decide to dig into it, then maybe could be a potential idea. But yeah, I think a Quarter app is a fantastic tool to try to, stay up on what you're doing and also find ideas.
Yeah, and that's a free app. Quarter is Quatr, and is a great resource for sure.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, with that, folks, we will go ahead and wrap up our conversation on how to source ideas in 2026. There are some new ideas in there, and so there are some timeless classics. Some of the things just never go out of style. So with that, we'll go ahead and sign us off. You guys go out there and invest with a margin of safety. Emphasis on the safety. Have a great week, and we'll check you out next time.
We hope you enjoyed this content. 7 Steps to Understanding the Stock Market shows you precisely how to break down the numbers in an engaging and readable way with real-life examples. Get access today at stockmarketpdf.com. Until next time, have a prosperous day. The information contained is for general information and educational purposes only. It is not intended for a substitute for legal, commercial, and/or financial advice from a licensed professional. Review our full disclaimer at einvestingforbeginners.com.